because so many people don't know that the grand jury possess the power that they do. So that's how this meeting came about, to have this forum. We were hoping that more people in law enforcement, such as our local judges, our newspapers, officers, we were praying that individuals like that would have came forward to this meeting today. But however, you know, the people who came, and they really appreciated it. And I feel like that's my responsibility and my duties, is once I gain knowledge, is to share it with my constituents so that they will be informed. So that's how we got to where we are today.
Commissioner Pearson, did you tell or inform your mayor and fellow city council persons?
Yes, Mr. Rhines, I announced it about 2 weeks ago at our city council meeting that we would be having Judge Nally here today. So they were aware, and we passed out flyers to the commission, to different people in the community. Yes, the mayor and council were informed, as well as the staff. Welcoming everybody here today. Thank you all so much for coming out to this very important and educational event.
Really great. Y'all need to get
They're pulling up. Welcoming everybody here today. Thank you all so much for coming out to this very important and educational event. So I've given the welcome. Is there a volunteer who would like to do the prayer? We got somebody? Sir, okay, yes. Yes, sir, come up here if you will. And give us the prayer. What's your name?
Roscoe Coles.
Mr. Coles, good to see you again. It's been a long time. You're great.
We might should stand by you. You're all right, Sister Sheila. Father, we thank you.
Thank you, Lord.
We thank and praise you, God, for this meeting, God, we're about to proceed with, God. God, you say in all our ways acknowledge you, God, and you will direct our path, God. Today, God, we're acknowledging you, God, that you'll direct our path and our steps, God. And we pray, God, that something meaningful will come out of this meeting. We thank you for those who are taking the time out to come here and help us, God. We pray, God, that more people will start to get involved, God, in the name of Jesus, God, because, God, we know you have only good things for us, God. And we just pray, God, for the staff that's here and those that are coming, those that are on their way, God. We thank you and we praise you, God. We'll give you all the honor and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much
for
that.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
Appreciate
ma'am.
it. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and get ready to have an introduction by Mr. Bobby Worthy. I had a mental block the other
I
night
know
at
it.
church.
I do too.
And I was like introducing, thanking people coming. I couldn't think of my first lady's first name. So I don't know what's going on with that. But Bible Words is gonna give us an introduction, and then after that, we're gonna hear from Judge Nally. And after we hear from Judge Nally, then we will, if anyone has specific questions for him, we'll have a session for that. So at this time, let's thank Mr. Worthy for coming up.
Amen.
Can you see us now?
Yeah, I see you.
I just want to listen, y'all.
I don't see
This,
you.
huh?
I don't see you, man.
Oh, well, that's fine. Long they can hear me, that's good. Long they can see them. This is such a powerful issue with what the judge is going to explain to y'all. Something that years and years law school students don't realize. Even myself being in law school, until he showed it. I read it numerous times until he showed me how to read it the right way and read it, and come to find out that most prosecutors, the judges, is not going to tell you the truth. That the power of the grand jury and the citizens' right to have access to the grand jury. So but this is very powerful. Unless you had an appointment with Jesus or God, you should have been here. Anybody that's in the civil rights movement, whatever you want to do, should have been here. We were always hollering, we want justice, we want justice, we want no peace, no justice. This is it. This is the power that we need to, we don't have to wait on the government to do what they're going to do. We can do it. We can take the initiative to do it. But that said, I ain't going to be long, but y'all need to spread the word. It's going to be on my Facebook Live. We got Boston Rhymes, of course. It's going to get out there. It's going to go viral. Of course, you know, Boston G.B.R., y'all need to go to it. This guy does more than that. We've all had our bits and pieces and disagreements, but we always know we can disagree and come together and move forward and pull this thing together. So with all y'all, we always have the Ghetto Free Press, and y'all need to go to his Boston G.B.R., his channel, follow his channel, subscribe to his channel, because he's going to print and he's going to tell the truth, what others know. And I have never met a man more honest than George Boston. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Worthy. And, thank you, Doctor, for actually reminding me that we do have the Get To Press here with Mr. Rhines. And I thank Mr. Rhines so much. He is so faithful to come when he is called upon. So we definitely thank him, because WALB was notified about this event. Douglas Now was notified about this event. Where are they? Do you see them? They're not here. But Mr. Rhines is here. So again, thank you, Mr. George Boston Rhines. You can go on YouTube and just type in Boston G.B.R. and it will pull up this event as well as many other events that Mr. Rhines has covered. So let's give Mr. Rhines a round of applause for being here today. And now at this time, you're going to hear from Judge Nally. Let's thank him for attending.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
All these years, wandering in the darkness, wandering around in the wilderness, crying out, Lord help us. over 800 years ago, God knew where you were going to be today. And he set down on this earth all of the weapons you were going to need to provide for your defense, to provide for your domestic peace and tranquility. Now, there's one thing else you need to know. because God saw your need 800 years ago when he arranged for King John to sign the Magna Carta. He also already had made up his mind that none of his children would he force. He gave us all free will. He isn't going to force you into a jail, a prison. He isn't going to force you to stay free. What he is going to do is to see to it that each day of your life you have the God-given sense to make a sensible choice. And then he's going to stand back and watch while you enjoy the choices you've made. Without getting too involved into a philosophical or religious dissertation, let us jump forward to today. Today, when each of you turned the age of 18, you ain't that far from that age. You took a seat. Now, you may still have been in high school, or you may have been out working at maybe a mechanic shop somewhere working on cars, or you might have been pumping gas, or might have been out working in the fields. It don't matter. The day you turned 18, you took a seat at the board of directors of two of the largest corporations in the world. Do we have any board members here, corporation presidents? I don't think so, but we could have. Well, actually, yes, we do. We've got every one of you here seated at the board of directors of the United States of America and the state of Georgia. As a board of directors member, it is your job to pay attention to the people you have hired who are your constitutional inferiors. They call them public servants. Don't mean to sound so harsh about your service, young lady. When this young lady, excuse me, when this young lady is at home in her civilian capacity, not a commissioner of the city, she is the equal of every other citizen in the county, in the state, and in this nation. And figuratively speaking, you could say that a board of directors member is quite literally the king and queen of their world as they serve on this board of directors. Now, when she decided to run for the city council, she willingly took off the robes, the royal robes of sovereignty, and hung it up. And then she reached up and took down the cloak of a servant. And she has been serving her community. But even she still has access to the weapons necessary to civilly go about your day-to-day business of managing not only your life, but the life of your government. And it's the life of your government that you need to understand that when King John signed that Magna Carta, he created, and that, by the way, is often referred to as the beginning of the common law. Actually, it's just one more step in what used to be the common law. But when he signed that, he created a group of 25 knights whose job it was, in writing in that document, to use all their might to bring any complaint of the wrongful taking of any man's liberty or his property to the courts of the king, and those judges would decide the matter. Those 25 knights, ladies and gentlemen, today are your 23 grand jurors. Each one of you, if you are selected to serve as a grand juror, the instant you are sworn, you, just like Ms. Pearson, will take off the robe of sovereignty, you'll hang it up, and as you go into the door of the grand jury room, you and your colleagues, each one of you will take down and put on the robe of a servant, a public servant. But here's where you've got to stop and understand. When you take that oath, you put on that cloak of service. You are going, God Almighty will be placing in your hands a power so awesome, so expansive in its reach, that kings, princes, and potentates throughout history have started wars to try and get that power in the first place and then hold on to it. You're going to be given it in the charge of a judge just by taking the oath. What can you do as a grand juror? First thing you can do is, if you know or suspect that there is a problem, I started to say problem in the Douglas City Council, but if that were the case, here's the lady you can talk to privately.
Yes.
You don't need to be a grand juror. But let's assume she's on vacation down in Florida somewhere and you can't get to her. Her cell phone dies.
Like you did this
Like you
morning.
did this morning. Then you as a grand juror bring this matter to the attention of the other 22 grand jurors. And y'all decide, okay, this is something we need to look into. Or maybe in their collective wisdom they say, well, that could be a problem, but we don't see any evidence of this. So right now, we're not going to spend county money to look into it, but we're going to let the next grand jury know that this matter came up. Anyway, that's one of the things you can do. Now, on an ordinary grand jury session, what happens? Has anyone here served on grand jury? And while I'm asking, okay, has any?
Years ago.
Okay.
I won't know.
Just one.
And do we have any prior military here, by the way? George? Oh, good. Then to the military personnel who are here, our former military personnel, and you, young man, listen to this. When you go into the military, you are administered an oath, and you subscribe to that oath. You raise your right hand and you swear before Almighty God that you're going to preserve and protect and support the Constitution. Please pay attention to this fact. That oath does not have an expiration date. the oath administered to politicians in this state and the oath that's administered to our military personnel is an oath that we should understand. We need to live it every day. But getting back to what happens, normally when you go in and sit down in the grand jury, first thing that's going to happen is the district attorney either comes in with the grand jurors or momentarily he's opening the door and coming in. Now, the district attorney usually has several criminal cases that have been investigated by law enforcement. The evidence that supports a prosecution has been gone over by either the district attorney or an assistant district attorney, and they're ready to present John Doe or Jane Doe to the grand jury for whatever crime they may have committed. Now, what a grand jury normally does is sits there quietly and lets the district attorney start his presentation on the first case. And he will probably tell you, I've got one case or I've got 5 cases. And he will start bringing in witnesses, and they'll give their testimony. If there's an instrumentality involved in the crime, he will lay out, maybe it's a knife, a gun, a club, baseball bat, doesn't matter. He'll lay it out for you to look at. And then you, as a juror, are to go over the evidence and ask yourself, does this evidence address the elements of the crime to be committed, to be prosecuted? Now, you're probably not going to know the criminal statutes. Title 16 is a thick book in the volumes of Georgia law. And so you're probably not going to know any particular element of any given crime. But that's something that you can have presented to you. If the district attorney, for example, tells you that, okay, we're going to present this evidence on theft by deception, 16A-3. Okay. First question out of your mouth is, Mr. District Attorney, can you print out that code section? It ain't that long. It's only about that long in the book. The reason you want it is so you can read it. So you know what elements the district attorney has to prove. Most folks don't think to do that. Most folks think, well, it's theft by deception, and y'all can get you some coffee back there and some donuts.
Hey, everybody.
So anyway, that's kind of the basics. But keep in mind, oh, and I forgot, when you first are sworn, the next thing that's going to happen is the judge is going to charge you. And in the charge of the judge, he may mention, we got a problem with this particular type of drug. And y'all need to investigate that, see if you can figure out how it's getting in here, what recommendations you can make to law enforcement to stop the influx of drugs into our county, or something of that nature. But what you need to know is that once you have taken care of the district attorney's problem, once you have passed on the, excuse me, let me back up again. When it comes to the elements of a crime to be proved, any citizen who is charged with the commission of a crime in this county has an absolute constitutional right, an And this is why I hate that there's not a judge here today from your court or your district attorney.
And they were invited.
Well, thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Well, that's the reason I'm sorry they're not here, because you would probably have seen somebody hit their feet real quick. Yes, sir?
No, I want to tell you, I invited the DA, sheriff.
Oh, good.
I invited the DA, the sheriff, and the clerk of court, because the clerk of court is involved in the process of the grand jury.
All right. Now, the reason I hate they're not here is because there is case law that says that you don't have a right to go to the grand jury. Unfortunately, that case law is seriously in error. That's not good case law. It is not constitutional law, and it's old law, but that's neither here nor there. The fact is, you as a grand juror will be required by your oath of office. If a citizen gets to you by letter, phone call, runs into you on the sidewalk downtown, don't care how, and says to you, knowing that you're a grand juror, and says to you, I would like to present my evidence on the question of probable cause. They can't come into a grand jury and conduct a trial. That is not what their right permits them to do. They can only address the question of probable cause to a grand jury. That's it. But even that can make a difference in whether a grand jury issues an indictment or a no bill. That's the difference between a true bill and a no bill. Now, after the...
Can I stop you for a second? Just
Yes,
a second.
ma'am.
I know we said questions at the end, but how can a citizen go there on probable cause if they have no knowledge that the grand jury is even discussing or gonna discuss or whatever?
There is a delicate balance between the rights of an individual and the duty of a grand jury. A grand jury at all times should maintain a degree of secrecy. Now, what that means is if one of you were to acquire a piece of knowledge about some kind of goings-on in the county, I'm going to be gentle with the city.
You don't have to.
But let's just say that they know a little something's going on in the county, and it's something that law enforcement needs to know about. But they also know that if law enforcement finds out about it, there's a problem that all of a sudden this conduct might move, or it might stop temporarily and not get prosecuted, not get raided or something like that. So the next thing you think of is, okay, I can take this information to the grand jury. Your communication with a grand jury is confidential and privileged. Nobody has any right to know or to demand of you to tell them. What's your business with a grand jury? None of your business. That's your response. None of your business. That's in federal law, by the way. So, if a sheriff, district attorney, and district, right now there's district attorneys that are bad at this. District attorneys will tell you, they will look you in the eye and they will tell you with all seriousness. You can look at their face while they're telling you this, and you know that man's telling the truth. No, he's telling you a lie. He just believes it's the truth. When he says, I'm the gatekeeper of the grand jury, you ain't getting there if you don't tell me, first off, what you wanted to talk to them about, and secondly, I'll decide whether they get to hear it or not. That ain't the law. The black letter of the law is, you ain't got to tell that district attorney, the sheriff, the judge, nobody else what your business is with the grand jury. Only the grand jurors. And you don't have to tell all of them. You can tell one. Ladies and gentlemen, under our Constitution, now we're talking about the power of a grand jury, but let's talk about the power of one citizen. One man, one woman. Number one, you have an absolute constitutionally guaranteed right to walk in and talk to that grand jury. They have a duty to hear you. There is a case from 1886 in which Justice Hall made this comment on page 148, 77 Georgia, 143 on page 148, and I cite that in this paper that I did, The Struggle. It is the right of any citizen to come forward and prosecute for offenses against the state. Prosecute for offenses against the state. The farmer, the furrier, the children downtown. Whatever job, don't matter. Whatever trade you may have practiced, in that day, you would come out of the field or out of your shop. If you were a blacksmith, you'd turn your forge, let your forge go out, you'd lay your hammer down, and you would walk into the grand jury room, standing in the place of a state's prosecutor. That's right. Ordinary citizens. And that judge made that known. And by the way, that was in 1886. In 1940, the same question came up in the state of Illinois. Can a citizen go uninvited before a grand jury? And they didn't know. Because there was nothing specifically mentioned about it in their law. What did they do? They went out and looked at all the other states. Well, guess what? Georgia was one of those states. They looked at Georgia and they said yes. Georgia, Tennessee, and Texas, a citizen may go uninvited to the grand jury. And they cited Henry Lester. Didn't cite a citation from the other two states. They cited Lester. At that moment, the quotation from Justice Hall in 1886 moved up in stature. Because in the case of Henry Lester, what he said about the grand jury and the right of the citizen was what's called dictum. In other words, it's a statement made in a case that is attendant to the subject matter of the case, but it is not directly related to the elements of the case or the merits of the case that the appeal is concerned with. But it took it from dictum and made it case law precedent, because the Constitution of the United States, Fifth Amendment, says, full faith and credit shall be given the judicial acts of the sister states. Full faith and credit. That don't mean partial. That means that, yeah, that was dictum until Illinois did what it did. And when Illinois cited Henry Lester, Lester became case law precedent in this state. And the only way that can change is for our Supreme Court to go back and look at the question and take away, I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the term here, overrule the holding in Leicester. But they got a little bit of a problem, because not only did Illinois look at it, but 4 years later in 1944, Brack v. Wells, a case in Maryland, arose, and lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, it was the same issue. And they had to go look at the other states, the sister states, to see, okay, how are these states handling it? And lo and behold, guess who they cited? Henry Lester, 77 Georgia, 143, page 148. And they said that a citizen can go to the grand jury uninvited. So what we have is a situation where you have the authority of a grand jury to back up your complaint of a criminal grievance. If there's a crime that's affecting you personally or affecting your immediate community, take it to the grand jury and take your evidence. Nobody's got to know who you are. Nobody's got to know that you even went to the grand jury, because you have a right to know who the grand jurors are. One of them might be a neighbor 2 blocks away. So either call them on the phone or stop by the house, knock on the door and say, hey, I need to talk to the grand jury. Can you get me in? It's a criminal matter. It's touching upon your present service. That's the words in the oath of a grand jury. And every one of you need to chisel these words into your heart and into your mind. Your oath requires you to diligently inquire and true presentment make of all such matters and things touching upon your present service. Now, all such matters and things does not deal with just the criminal elements in our society. It deals with looking over our politicians' shoulders.
Okay.
And if we think that our elected representative has done something, maybe the law lets her do it, but she did it in a way that we don't agree with, then we're going to talk to her about it. If a politician does something the law absolutely forbids, you're going to talk to her, you go talk to the grand jury, they'll talk to her. Or him. I'm sorry.
No,
I can't help
fine.
it.
They're supposed to talk to, well, I guess.
Right.
They're supposed to talk to you.
Please don't feel hard me picking on you
No.
today.
Hope you can relate my situation before you finish.
Now, okay. Now there's another thing. Who gets to go to the grand jury besides the individual citizen, the district attorney, or the judge? Well, guess what? Your public officials also can go to the grand jury. The reason for that is what you need to understand about the grand jury in the state of Georgia. And by the way, folks, you are unique in the world. You are unique in all 50 states. There's not another state in this nation that treats the grand jury the way the Constitution of the state of Georgia treats it. Not another one. Our forefathers, for whatever reason, when it came time to establish the grand jury, through the wording that they used in Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 11, they reached over into the common law where the grand jury began 800 years ago. And they reached in and picked up the grand jury from the common law, and they set it down in the statutory law of our Constitution, the black letter of the law. Fully clothed, with every power, with every responsibility, with every duty the grand jury had been known to possess for over 1,500 years at the time it was picked up and brought to Georgia. When Oglethorpe's foot touched Yamacraw Bluff, the grand jury was here. Fully clothed, the state legislature in our Constitution. Now, maybe you're thinking, well, you know, Jesus, with all this power, by 23 men and women in Coffee County, how long is it going to be before the legislature starts playing around with the grand jury, making laws that makes it harder for the grand jury to do what it can do? Well, that ain't going to happen. And the reason it ain't is because Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 11, the very last sentence says, the legislature shall make rules for the selection and compensation of the juries. Nothing else. If a grand jury wants to know, okay, what can a grand jury do in this situation? You don't go look in the black letter of the statutes, Title 15. You don't need to go look in Title 15. Chapter 12. You don't need to go look there. You don't need to go look any other title of the code section. You go back and look in the common law. Search the cases that have been heard in our appellate courts and see if there's one similar or identical to what you're considering now. And if you don't find one there, now you go back into the common law. Now you go back into the law as it was before our Constitution, as it was before our Articles of Confederation. And you find out, was there a case there? That tells you what the precedent was. You may not have, as a grand jury, you may not have to go with what the old courts said in every detail, but at least you have a knowledge of how they proceeded in that matter that was similar to or exactly like the one you're considering today. So, I'm sorry, does anybody know how long I've been running my mouth?
Not long enough.
No, not long enough. Maybe about 15 minutes, maybe?
The main thing that I would like for y'all to understand is the grand jury is a powerful entity. If you were to stop and draw a picture of the power structure, the hierarchical power structure, up here on top, you've got the individual citizen, the board of director member. The next step down is the grand jury. Everybody else in the state of Georgia, just thought of something else I need to let you know about. Everybody else in the state of Georgia is below that. Your sheriff, your judge, your district attorney, commissioners, councilman. Everybody else is below that.
Okay.
But what I was going to say a while ago was, this lady, if she has a problem managing the affairs of Douglas, Georgia, And she just cannot seem to get any cooperation in getting information or what have you. Guess who she goes? Guess where she's going to go? She's going to go down to the courthouse. She's going up to the grand jury room. And if the bailiff is standing outside the door, then she's going to tell the bailiff, I need to talk to the grand jury. If the bailiff's inside the door, she knocks. The bailiff will open it. Then she says, I need to talk to the grand jury. She can go to the grand jury to get all the help she needs. And the reason for it is because if you will go back and study the history of the grand jury, and by the way, for those of you who would like to look up case law, see if any of this is in case law, there is a case, I don't remember the year, and I don't remember the site to the Supreme Court of Georgia's decision, but the case was named in re Gwinnett County Grand Jury. And about 5 or 6 pages down, if I recall the number of pages right, about 5 or 6 pages down, they go through a list of things that grand juries used to do. County commissioners would not build a road. They would not even pave a road unless they checked with the grand jury first. Now, if it's a pothole, that wasn't a big deal. Yeah, you put some guys out there, put some gravel in that hole so folks quit bumping around. But if it came to paving or building a road, that grand jury's going to approve that expenditure before I write my name on that check. But they appointed boards of education members. Up in 1976, guess what they were doing? They were appointing justices of the peace. I was appointed to the Justice of the Peace, 827 Militia District. Governor Busby, when he got the, now that I got to tell you about. Governor Busby didn't question it, he just signed off on it and sent me my commission. Talking about that, now let me tell you how powerful. This is probably the best story you'll ever read in Georgia's case law. In 1953, a citizens committee right over here in Liberty County got together. Well, it wasn't a citizen, it didn't start out as a citizens committee. It just started out with a bunch of irate citizens. Sheriff ain't doing his job. They were having a problem with liquor in the county, and the sheriff wasn't doing the job necessary to get rid of it. Well, they didn't like it. So they sat around and they badmouthed it, and they badmouthed the sheriff. Finally, they decided, well, look, we ain't getting nothing done this way. Let's get rid of it. Okay. That might help. How do we do that? They go to town and they hire a lawyer. And ask that lawyer to present their case to the grand jury and see if they couldn't do something about the sheriff. Well, as it turns out, their evidence was strong. The grand jury was not happy with what they were hearing. They weren't happy with the evidence. Now, at that point, you've got to understand that grand jury was faced with a bit of a dilemma. In 1953, or 54, 53 is when this case went to the grand jury. If a sheriff was indicted for a criminal or multiple criminal offenses, and if he was convicted, he was looking at going to one of Georgia's penitentiaries. Now, folks, some of y'all might be old enough to remember the penitentiary system, the chain gang system in this state. Most of you are too young.
Read about it.
But let me tell you, when a sheriff walked into a state penitentiary in this state, it was a death sentence. It didn't matter if you'd been sentenced to 2 years or 5 years. It was a death sentence. Well, that grand jury they didn't like what he had done, but they didn't want to indict him and run the risk of him going to trial and getting convicted and then wind up getting maybe 5 year sentence and getting killed in prison. They didn't want that. So they asked themselves this question: is there something we can do? Well, as it turns out, yes, there was. They issued a special presentment in that case, ordering the governor through the judge of the Superior Court. Their order was relayed to the governor of the state of Georgia, Herman Talmadge. Now, maybe some of y'all have read about the Talmadge dynasty that ruled this state for years. Now, one thing, when I was a boy coming up, one thing we all knew: the sheriff is the finger of the governor in the pie of the public. So, being told by a grand jury that you're going to get rid of our sheriff didn't sit well at all. Not even a powerful politician as Herman Talmadge was going to buck a grand jury. He got rid of the sheriff. No governor in this state is going to buck a grand jury. And believe it or not, you have that magnitude, that scope of power. You are not restricted to considering any crime committed just here in your county. You have the authority to stick your nose, your collective noses, in anybody's business in this state. The governor, the lieutenant governor, your legislators, the justices of the Supreme Court of the state of Georgia, the judges of the Court of Appeals. Wait a minute. It don't stop there. It doesn't stop there. The power of a Georgia grand jury who has discovered a crime in their county can follow that evidence wherever it goes in the world. Do you want to see the jurisdictional limit? Do you want to put your eyes on the limits of the grand jury in your county? If you do, you're going to have to step out that front door and look up. Because the limit ain't nowhere else on the face of this earth. Yes, sir.
If I may, but if not, I'll wait until everything is over. But I have a burning question.
It seemed quite obvious. I think I see smoke rising back there. Yes, sir.
If it's burning, give it to us.
Concerning the paperwork that I gave you,
Yes, sir.
there was an attorney, not an attorney, but a news person from 11, Channel 11 in Atlanta.
Yes, sir.
He came down here and he did a video. He did a video with the district attorney who was present when that case was indicted. He also talked with the district attorney who was there at the time. That's Rick Kerr was the first one, and then Barnhill was the second. Now, they indicted those people years before they ever got close to coming to a trial. If you see that letter that I sent to him comparing what was happening to them versus Commissioner Pearson, you'll see just how long it was that they indicted him, and it was just riding.
Okay. So your question has to do with the timing?
It has to do with the fact that they were sort of let go because of
No.
not having a speedy trial.
Okay. All right, let me address that.
Let me tell you, give you some more information before you say that. In the district attorney's letter, he outlines that one of the persons indicted was sick, had an illness, it was continuing illness, and even his lawyer had been sick. That's why it was dragging on. Now, my question gets to be, when they finally, after that was sent to them, they took it to trial, and the lawyer took it to trial saying that they didn't get a speedy trial. My question gets to be, that letter is evidence of what was going on with the district attorney if he was telling the truth. So how in the world can they say they didn't get a speedy trial? They were sick. The lawyer was sick.
And the
Now, how can they go to
lawyer
court?
asking for continuances.
Yeah.
Your grand jury can look into that question. And this is a good place for that question to come up. You might remember back in the early part when I began this, I explained to you or told you, well, you can go read it for yourself in the Constitution, that your grand jury, that once you are seated, sworn as a grand juror, you change, and this is something that's important for y'all to get, and get this in your mind. Forget the word juror, because everybody, when they think about a juror, they're thinking of somebody in a hierarchical system that's not up here where the judge is, but down here. That ain't right. A jury member is on the same level with that Superior Court judge. You are not below, you are up here. A judge is not a supervisor of a grand jury. He performs no supervisory duty. He is there to assist the jury, the grand jury. The district attorney is there to assist the grand jury. Neither of those tell you as a grand juror what you're going to do. Because if they do, the instant those words come out of their mouth, whoever's sitting as foreman needs to get up and walk over to the grand jury door, open it up, and say, Mr. Bailiff, bring us a couple of deputies. And then that judge arrests him right there in the grand jury room. Then turn around and ask his colleagues who are also witnessing what's going on to return an immediate indictment and send him to trial. Your Constitution makes you a juror, a judge of the law in all criminal matters. Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 11. In all criminal cases, the jury shall be the judges of the law and the facts. Now you stop and think no, don't stop and think right now. But you think about this after you leave here today. What does that mean when I become a judge of the law? I didn't make that law. I elected a representative, and he and his colleagues up there in Atlanta passed that law. The governor up there in Atlanta signed that law. Yeah, they did. Under our Constitution, every one of them are subject to you. What you think as a grand juror, what you and your neighbors sitting around you as sworn grand jurors, what you think. Because if it's a bad law and you don't like it, you issue a special presentment saying, this is a bad law, or it's deficient in this area, this area, this area, and we are nullifying it. This law shall not be enforced in this state. You nullify the law. Now, I was going to tie that comment in to this question of speedy trial. Speedy trial demand is a constitutional claim. It's covered in the Constitution. And every person has a right to demand it. There is the crucial point on this matter. At any time, did his or her lawyer file a demand for speedy trial? Do you know?
I don't have that knowledge.
Okay, here's all you got to do. Go back down to the courthouse and pull up that case. Pull up that case number and just sit there and flip through each document. And when you get to the end, if you have not found a document that says, that is captioned, motion for speedy trial, that was an erroneous pleading.
Okay.
It should never have been made. Now listen, it gets a little more serious than that. Because if motion for speedy trial claim, or excuse me, speedy trial claim was allowed by the judge, that judge misapplied the law, number one. Number two, he obstructed justice. Number three, by obstructing justice, he violated his official oath of office. Under 16-10-1 of the Georgia Code, Criminal Code, violation of an oath of office is a 5-year felony. And any grand jury has the absolute right, they have the duty to diligently inquire and true presentment make as to that allegation. Does that help you a little bit?
It helped me, but I need to say something else also.
Please.
He came down and he was able to talk to some of the grand jurors. He did a video of some, talk to them.
The report.
That's right. And they were upset about what had happened. They were upset.
Well, okay, if I may interject here.
Okay.
Yes, you're right. They probably were upset. Some of them were probably madder than I can't use that word here. But I think you all know how mad I think they were. But here's the problem. Sadly, I hate using this word because a lot of people take offense at it, but it's not an offensive word. But sadly, they were ignorant of the law. Now listen, let me tell you something. There's nothing wrong. There's nothing derogatory about being ignorant of the law. We are all ignorant of something. Man, I'm dumber than dirt on a whole lot of stuff. I'll tell you that right now. So there's nobody here is probably any more ignorant than I am. What is disgraceful, what stains the skirts of our integrity is when we are indifferent to our ignorance. And by the grace of God Almighty, the fact that you few are here today tells me you ain't not a one of y'all indifferent. Nobody can look at y'all and say, oh, they're indifferent to their ignorance. We're going to treat them any way we want to. No, you ain't. Because today you have reached over and picked up a club to defend yourself your family, your community, and you're not having to reach up here and get a death grip on the Second Amendment. That you can leave on the wall. Because now, God has placed in your hands a mighty club. Now, let me, I kind of get the impression I've been running my mouth too long. So I think you've got probably the basic information you need. There are citations, there are case law citations, and there's statutory and constitutional citations that's available in a little.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's on the internet, and Bobby Worthy's got it. So, and I think this young lady's got it. Ms. Pearson, I think, got it. So
the struggle is on my page. It's on my page.
okay, but you can it's a Word document, but you can download it and turn it to a PDF, or you can just read it in Word or Word Perfect, whatever. But if any of you have any questions about what you've learned here today, then please don't hesitate to give me a call and let me know. And then I'll shut up. And
Did you want to share your
You
number?
got some questions?
yes, Mom.
You're going to share his number first.
Okay,
then
she'll be taking down my number, so she'll have contact information. My phone number is 678-986-1627, and my email address is P, the letter P, followed by my last name, Nally, Nally, the number 1, @att.net. And I will do my best to respond promptly. Now, as busy as I've been over the last couple of weeks, promptly might mean 3 days, but I'll try to do better, I promise you that.
That's great. That's great. So thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
So now you'd like to entertain a couple of
I
questions?
will take any questions, and including questions out of Bobby. Do it loudly. I gotta go get
He gonna refill
well,
his cup.
Well, I talk loud though. Go ahead.
yeah, y'all hear you.
What I wanted you to do is explain to them what you and I found out in the last couple of weeks. When we found out that the Georgia Bureau of Investigators, the GBI, is always telling the city council and the city governments that the mayor is the one to have to call the investigation. And it does not say that on the GBI website. It does not say that in the law. It says any public official can call for the GBI investigation, and they do not have to wait on the mayor.
You are
The city county, Miss Olivia herself, can call an indictment call for an investigation on the prosecutors and anybody in her office that she wants to. And that is on the website, the GBI website, and it is in the case law. But the GBI will come back and tell you, and has told Ms. Coley, Ms. Pearson, that the mayor have to call for the investigation. That is a complete lie.
He's correct, ladies and gentlemen. Not only does the GBI have to respond to the request of a public official, any public official, but the law also requires them. Now, you and I can't pick up the phone, call the GBI, the local GBI or in Atlanta, and say, hey, I need y'all to come down here and investigate this. We can't do that under the law. But what we can do is we can provide them information. And the law says once they come into possession of information, evidence, they got to investigate. That is what's called a legal, self-enforcing duty. GBI. Yes, sir.
Traffic tickets. Remember we talked about what we found out, or you want me to tell you?
You do the honors on traffic tickets.
All right. And then maybe like last 2-3 weeks we found out.
About 3 weeks ago.
About 3 weeks we found out that most city, county, and state officials are taking uniform traffic citations and use them as traffic charging instruments for other crimes. Like if they pull you over for speeding, they put you in their open container by minor. If they put that on a uniform traffic citation, then that is illegal. The Georgia Court of Appeals have overturned several cases because they cannot use a non-traffic violation on a uniform traffic citation. And a lot of them doing it. So if you're getting these tickets by these cities and county and state, watch what they write on them. But the thing about it, I find out you can't challenge them while you're going through the process. You see what I'm saying? They put you on 12-month probation. You have to challenge them at the next level, because if you challenge them within that time frame, then all they got to do is recharge you and do it the right way, as long as they meet the statute of limitations. But watch what they write on your tickets. If it's not a uniform, if it doesn't have anything to do with traffic in Title 40, right? Title 40, then it ain't got no business on the uniform traffic citation.
That's what he's told y'all was correct. And I hope all of you will file that away, in the back of your mind. Something else I'm going to mention 2 other problems we have in virtually every county in this state. And that's with your magistrate judges. Now, I don't know whether the Bartow County magistrate still does this or not, because I told him in a meeting, you're violating the law, you're committing a felony every time you do this. And he went. But he found out that I wasn't kidding. That's what happens. If you're arrested by law enforcement and charged with a crime committed in their presence, as soon as they put you in the back of the patrol car, their first stop can be book in. But as soon as that photograph is taken, the next stop better not be a jail cell. Now, I don't care if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning, that next stop better be in front of a committing magistrate. The United States Supreme Court in 1975, in the case of Gerstein v. Pugh, spoke to all 50 states. And they said in words to this effect, we don't care what laws you pass to take any citizen from a condition of liberty into a condition of custody. But you will, if the arrest is made first, you will transport immediately, not 72 hours later, immediately to a committing magistrate. And if it's not an immediate arrest, in other words, if maybe your neighbor wants to charge you with stealing his pig, he's got to go to court. Let me back up here. Let me show you something that is going on in this state that you need to put a stop to. Your neighbor says you stole his pig, so what does he do? He runs and tells the sheriff. Okay, sheriff's deputy, good old buddy. Okay, we'll go over there and we'll arrest him. We'll go get a warrant. They run over to the magistrate's court. They take a warrant for you, and then they come pick you up. That better not happen. That better not happen, because that is unconstitutional. What that law enforcement officer, if he wants to interject himself into a spat between neighbors, or it could be a minor theft. The point is, he has to go to the trouble of filling out an affidavit based on this other guy's testimony and request a warrant hearing, which means if you're the one that's charged with stealing the pig, the constable's got to come out and serve you with a notice to be and appear in magistrate court on such and such a day at such and such a time, there to answer to the charge of stealing a pig. They don't go get a warrant, come and kick your door in. Oh, that's the other thing. Let me go on with this. They don't kick your door. Cell phones and battery changes. And the fact that I'm 73 years old, I just forgot where the same hell I was.
Let's see, you were going into, must complete an affidavit, a warrant here.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
Copy.
sir.
Yeah. The 17-440, when you read 17-440, if you don't understand, reading the law should be simple for anybody. 17-440 was throwing me for a loop for a week. Because when you first read it, you read this phrase, except law enforcement officers. And it sounded like, well, the law's saying they don't have to go give an application for a warrant hearing. They do. They're not accepted. Not under the Constitution, not under Gerstein v. Pugh. They're not accepted. They got to go the same procedures you and I go. That law contains six situations where a hearing does not have to occur. Anything else beyond those six, there better be a hearing, or your constitutional rights have been violated. And any public, now here's something else you need to know. Why in the world y'all get me started? Here's something else you need to know. 16-1-2 and 16-1, scratch that. 16-8-2, 16-8-3. Theft and theft by deception. Any public officer, I don't care if it's the sheriff or one of his deputies. I don't care if it's a jailer. I don't care if it's a dog catcher. If they arrest you without probable cause, they have committed a felony. Let me ask you this. How many of you here know the dollar value of just one of your civil rights? Who knows? Come on, I know, you all know it. I know it. Come on. Tell me.
There is no value.
Yes, there is. Congress set a value on your
they did?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, what is that?
In Title 18, United States Code 3571, you can go read it for yourself. A violation of your civil rights under Title 18 U.S.C. 242 is punishable under 3571 as a felony. Number one, it's a felony.
Okay.
And the value, $250,000. One civil right by one individual. God help them if 5 of them violate your civil rights. And it gets worse. Congress made it even worse than that. You ever heard of your sheriff's department or your city? Pay attention.
Yes, sir.
Your city being a body corporate and politic. That same statute says that if a corporation violates your civil rights, it ain't $250,000 no more. It's $500,000. Better send your city councilors back to college.
Yes.
Judge,
Yes, sir, young man.
Judge, how do you know that what you're speaking is true, number one? And number two, if you know you're speaking the truth, how can the judges and lawyers and other people allow this to happen in the state of Georgia and nobody says anything?
First off, nobody saying anything has to do with a problem that we're having in our nation. And this is a problem, by the way, that did not start with us. It did not start with our fathers. It started in our grandfather's time. And the problem is this: it deals with education. Now, I see a couple of gray hairs here in the audience. So I know that there's one or two folks here who can remember going to school and studying civics. Most of these young kids today, they ain't got a clue what a civics class is. Nobody teaches them that at the age of 18, you're going to become a board member on two of the largest corporations in the world. Nobody's telling them that. Nobody is showing them in the law how that is. And by the way I know I'm correct is because not only do I read the law and thank God Almighty every day that He gave me a mind capable of understanding the English language, but I read case law, and I have the backup of other judges, not necessarily in Georgia. Some legal concepts are mentioned in the state of Washington or California, Arizona, New York, Maryland. So I've read a lot of case law. Believe me, my belly shows. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, what I want to know, if a person had a felony charge back 10 years or more, can that be expunged off their record?
Yes. It can be expunged. It can be. You do it with a petition to the court, and you show the court that you've served your time, and other statutory items have apply, and that you would like to have, or this person would like to have that expunged from their record. Mm-hmm. And it comes down basically to the reputation of the individual making the petition and the judge who's hearing it.
Yeah, well, I went with someone, matter of fact, had been over a month ago, and had this situation that took place, and he was not guilty of it, but they made him guilty, of a felony. It was like a robbery charge, but you know how that is around here. I'm just keeping it 100. So the lady told him, say that won't never be able to come off your record.
And that's good you brought that up, because some people who were supposed to be here asked me that same question that they're having a problem with. But the problem might lie in, and I'm not sure, Judge, you can help us. The problem might lie in the people that talked to me. They went straight to the DA's office about it.
I didn't go to the DA, I went to the
where you went, clerk of court?
Solicitor, not the solicitor, but the lady that's supposed to wipe all that stuff off.
Okay, I'm not sure who they are, but Judge, will you tell us the
Well,
steps? Who do you go to first?
Well,
You want me to do it? You got it.
yeah, go with, please, thank you. That give me another sip or two of wet my whistle.
All right, on the you said on the expungement?
Yes.
Or on the expungement. All right, you got to know the difference between expungement, pardon, what's the other? Clemency. All right, it's a difference. Expungement is usually when you are charged with something, and correct me if I get wrong, Judge, when you are charged with a crime and they don't want to prosecute it, or they dismiss the cases and it's on your records. And you do go to the district attorney. It's a fee, I believe, of $50. I believe that. I could be wrong. I'm not sure of that. But you have to get you have to expungement, you have to get a background You have to, expungement, you have to get the paperwork from the DA's office or contact me, I got the paperwork. And you get them from the G.B.R. website, or you can go to the G.B.R. website, they got them on there for expungement. Print them out, take them by there, you have to get the, it's 3-part things that people have to fill out. And the district attorney is the final one to say so. To sign off on it, and then it's sent to the GBI, and then it's removed from your record. Now remember, pardons, expungements, and all that are different. You know, and if you got a criminal record,
Slow up, Bob.
huh?
Slow up.
Okay, back to expungement.
Well, you're going a little bit fast.
All right.
Because see, she mentioned they didn't do the crime. So when you said, did they go to court and were convicted and found guilty?
He went to court.
Okay.
And when he went to court, the other little guy was the one that actually did the crime.
Okay.
My son and another little guy that my son was driving. Of course, he was hiding that, been smoking a little marijuana, you know. But then his girlfriend's cousin was in the car with him, but they never did question the little guy. So the guy that did the robbing, my son didn't know what was going on, so he went and the guy told him, say, take me to the store, say my girlfriend gonna give me some money. So he told him, say, you can just park over there at Walmart parking lot. So they parked over there, listened to the music while the guy got out and went down to the store, down the hill, and did what he was gonna do. And then he come back. He said, man, said, just take me home. So the other guy said, man, said, what's wrong? Said, you all right? He said, yes, said, just take me home. So they took him home. So by that, you know, 2 weeks went by, and they got to tell me, said, well, you know, they looking for your son. So we goes down there to see what they were looking for him for, you know, being honest, you know. Right. So we went down there, so that's what they was telling him. So he was telling him, say, he wasn't aware of what the guy was doing, you know, and he wasn't, you know. So so he told him, say, well, question the little guy that was in the car with him, because him and my son was the same, you know. They didn't know what was going on. But then they never take the other little guy to hear his story or nothing. But they gave my son a charge and kept him locked up in jail for about 10 months.
Okay, all right. So did they convict him?
They didn't convict him, but they
just kept him in and
they kept him and they
let him
stuck
go.
that charge to him.
They gave him.
They stuck that charge to him.
Is he there now?
No, he came home after we got a lawyer out of Waycross, out of Jacksonville, Florida. I went through 2 lawyers. I fired John Rumper, and I hired the one out of Jacksonville, Florida. And so he came down and went down there and talked with my son and everything, and he found out what my son was saying was true. So he was able to get out. But they had him on probation, so he did a probation time.
So basically they found him guilty.
I guess they
So
did.
if he was on probation, unless they had a bond stipulation, his bond. So basically, he got found guilty. What did they give him? Is he finished?
Yeah, he's done with all that.
All right. Well, okay. If the charge with a felony, he has been convicted of the felony, he can get it off his record. That would be a clemency, or to I forgot what they call it in Georgia. It's another term. But anyway, what he has to do, he has to meet the requirements. The requirements after you've been convicted of a crime in Georgia, you can't have no other offenses, misdemeanors, or nothing within a 5-year period. Within a 5-year period, if you meet that requirement, then you can file a petition with the governor to clean your record. Now, mention this: when you're cleaning your record, it's never wiping out the crime. It's just putting a statement on that record forgiving you of that crime, so you can get certain rights back. But if you finish, you automatically voting rights and all that automatically restored, like firearms and stuff like that. He have to ask for that back. But he have to meet that requirement: 5 years clean record, and then he can petition the governor to remove that off his record. But he got to meet the requirement if he's been convicted.
Okay. So how do you be convicted of a crime like she just mentioned? There's no way to have that overturned?
Oh, it's always, listen, anything that's done illegally can always be undone. You know, you got people in jail 50, 60 years, and DNA evidence clearance, it always can be clear. It depends on if you want to take it that level. Okay. You know what I'm saying? You can always bring it out. You can bring it back on an extraordinary motion under newly discovered evidence, or you can challenge through a writ of mandamus. You know what I'm saying? I mean, not writ of mandamus, but a writ of habeas corpus. Or, like you said, you can petition the grand jury to investigate.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there a time limit that you have? Is there a time limit?
No,
Not where the grand jury is concerned.
not with the grand jury is concerned, no. There's no time limit, there's no
I'm
time.
glad you brought that up. Excuse me just a minute.
Go ahead.
Talking about time limits, statutes of limitations. Remember what I told you or what I informed you of earlier. In criminal matters, the jury is the judges of the facts and the law. If they don't like the existence of a statute of limitations in a particular criminal case, they nullify it. They look at the district attorney and say, you're not going to enforce that statute of limitations to keep from prosecuting this individual. That gets back to your case. Because the next thing I can see them raising here, if they raise speedy trial, if that don't work, if it flies in their face, the next thing they're going to do is say, oh, well, statute of limitations expired. Grand jury can say, no, it didn't.
Judge,
Yes, sir.
after 6 years of being under criminal trespass, illegal, unjustified, and never presented in writing, how can, or what status, or what can I do about the criminal trespass they put on me after Kendrick Johnson was found dead?
A criminal trespass, if it is untenable in a court of competent jurisdiction, becomes an act of theft. First question you ask is, what in the Sam Hill what got stolen from me? Your right to travel, your right to choose where you're going to go and when you're going there. That gets back to, by the way, to the common law, because the right to travel and the right to choose are not mentioned in any of the fundamental liberties in our federal Constitution. They are not mentioned in the Georgia Constitution. But what's mentioned in both of those constitutions is the phrase, the enumeration of the privileges and immunities heretofore are not a denial of any other right, privileges, or immunities enjoyed by the people. Anything, any right, privilege, or immunity that you had in the 17th century, you've still got today, unless it was specifically repealed. And ain't, to my knowledge, ain't none of them been repealed.
Okay. That answered your question?
Short
Mr.
form,
Brown?
Judge. Time it down. So what is my alternative, or anybody in my situation? Only the grand jury, or what can be done? The statute of limitation may have been going out by the books, but my friend went to the high school this week, and they told them that I could not accompany him to Lowndes County High School. So to me, it seemed like it's still not dead.
Okay, if they still want to keep playing this stupid game, then file a petition with the grand jury to be heard on a criminal matter, and then attach to that a statement of the facts in the case, showing that they are engaging in criminal conduct violations, OCGA 16-8-2, 16-8-3. Now, when you serve it on the grand jury foreman, send a copy down to the superintendent and see how he likes the idea of getting to go face a criminal prosecution. All of a sudden, you might find that they'll tolerate you a lot quicker than they thought they were going to.
All right, thanks, Judge.
Anybody else has anything? Judge, I would like to, ask, I don't know, it's probably, you know, already established, but I don't have the knowledge about it. Would you happen to know how often, grand juries might convene? And also, how often are they chosen? Do they get a 6-month term or 12 months? How does that work?
You know, there was a time I thought I could answer that question.
Uh-oh.
Let me give you, OCGA 15
Okay.
dash 3,
Mhm.
15, no, I think 3.
But it's in, section 15.
Look, honey, I'm 73 here.
Yeah, yes, sir, yes, sir. Hey, I do the same
I
thing.
ain't
I
got
ain't your
near the
age
memory
yet.
I used to have. Title 15,
Title 15.
basically,
Okay.
in Title 15, you go down to the chapter that deals with superior courts. Oh, that is 3.
3?
That's dash 3, that's the
Okay.
chapter.
Okay. Okay.
I can't remember the paragraph.
Well, you put me in the vicinity.
But anyway, what it does is it says terms of court.
Terms, okay.
And as a general rule,
Mhm.
every term of court, a judge is supposed to impound a grand jury. Now, I have recently run into a situation where that's not the case.
Mhm.
And when the impoundment comes about, 2 grand juries, 2 different panels of grand jurors are sworn in.
Okay,
I've not taken the time to investigate that
okay,
to determine whether or not that county is doing that constitutionally or not.
right. Well, I think that needs to happen.
Well, every term of court, and there is a provision in Title 15, when a judge refuses or does not, for some other maybe excusable reason, doesn't convene a grand jury, then there's a provision in law for that to happen, so.
Okay, okay.
But normally, in most of the small counties like Bartow, where I come from, it's every term of court, new grand jury, and it's every 3 months. Some terms of courts in this state are 6 months long, so there's 2 grand juries.
I see.
Yes,
Okay.
You can,
Well, I was gonna ask, what was I gonna ask?
George
Something about.
interrupted you.
Yeah, oh my goodness. See, I'm your age, but you see, I can't remember. Oh, can we go, not as a public official, but as regular citizens, can we go to the clerk of court and say, I'd like to see the list of grand jurors?
Excellent question. Here's where you need to know the language of the law.
Okay,
The success or failure of any proposition that involves the law hinges on the verbiage.
okay,
You go into, if I were to go into Bartow County again and ask the clerk of the court to see the list of grand jurors currently serving with their mailing address, so I could send each one of them a petition, maybe I wanted to do that, she'd look at me and she'd say, that's secret information, we can't give you that. That's what she's told me in the past.
okay.
So I go make the mistake of going and reading the law. The language of the law in that situation is jury information, here's the verbiage, is not required to be made public. Now, there's a heck of a lot of difference between not required to be made public and, oh, can't do that, it's secret.
Right,
There's a world of difference.
yes,
But they don't want you, the ordinary citizen, or me, especially me, in there talking to a grand jury. Because them folks might find out something that would really tick them off.
yes.
And then there'd be hell to pay. The Georgia penitentiary would get filled up. And it wouldn't be ordinary citizens filling it up. Yes, sir, Joe.
Judge, I know we've been here a good while, but I'm gonna ask you this question on behalf of everybody here and the people that have watched this video.
Yes, sir.
You spoke well, you spoke very knowledgeable. We believe you and we trust you. But if you don't mind, what I would like for you to do very briefly, A, B, C, D, and E. Number one, short form. What is the purpose of the grand jury?
The purpose of the grand jury is to stand between each and every one of you and a corrupt government. It is there in the hope that it will keep your hand off of the Second Amendment.
Who has authority over the grand jury to shut them down?
The grand jury is a self-governing constitutional entity with a statutory beginning and a statutory end. Nobody controls a grand jury. No judge, no district attorney, only the foreman with the advice and consent of his colleague judges on that tribunal. You're a judge. When you take that oath as a grand juror, that quick you become a in the law. It is referred to in legal parlance as a quasi-judicial officer. You're a judge. And if you doubt me, go get your grand jury handbook that's over at your district attorney's office. Turn to page 21. And go down there on the right-hand page, go down there where it says swearing witnesses, and see what they say. See what the Prosecuting Attorney's Council of the state of Georgia says about swearing a witness. Be sure to impress upon the witnesses to tell the truth, because this is a judicial proceeding. You are judges. Yes,
Fourth,
sir.
you use the term, and I mean, I may know, but I'm trying to help people here, and maybe, like I said, people that watch this video on YouTube when I put it up. Define very briefly, Judge, please, when you say common law, what are you talking about, common law?
Common law is recorded in books starting in England. And what it was judges made decisions on cases that came before them based upon custom of the community in which they were sitting, usage, however that community had used the judicial process in settling disputes in that area. And over time, a huge volume of written decisions came about. And every once in a while, there would be a decision based upon an edict issued by the king. The king might say, okay, you know, this baron over here, he's going to forfeit 50 acres of land because he did this that displeased the crown or that potentially harmed the crown, and that would get recorded. And it was just one recordation after another. What our founding fathers, let me explain the difference between the common law. The common law, in essence, is a body of recorded judicial proceedings. Now, what's the difference between the common law and what we have in the United States of America? Our founding fathers understood the potential value of setting up a government that was structured like a corporation. And that's exactly what they set up. They set up a corporation. We call it a government. We get this misconception that it is something other than our property.
Right.
But it's our property. It's our corporation, and each of us sits as a board of directors member of it. But they understood that in corporate governance, at that time, you had a written charter, which we called, you might make that correspond to the, okay, I'm having a senior moment. Y'all excuse me.
That's fine.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
This-
Excuse me. Okay, go ahead.
this is the end, this is the last one I have. I have seen you meet in Kingsland where the individual was shot and killed by a police officer down. You came down there, and I have heard that you help other people or assist other people in trying to get justice. So my final question is this, Judge. Why do you do what you're doing today, and we can't find any other current or past judges, I can't, that are willing to educate the people like you're doing here today? Why do you do it?
Well, I suppose that I could probably say that the good Lord gave me a talent, He gave me a calling to do that. I could probably say that. And it would probably be the truth. You know, it would be the truth. But I heard, and for the life of me, I don't remember where I heard this. I really don't. But in my younger days, I heard somebody's voice say, I ain't doing this for you. I'm doing this for me. And if you get any benefit out of it, so much the better. And I'm sitting here and thinking, my Lord, that sounded selfish. Well, yes, it did sound selfish. But if you stop and think for just a minute, if I'm taking care of my business, and I am bringing a world of hurt on corrupt bunch of folks, they're going to be less likely to jump on you. Now, when 2 or 3 of us get together and take care of our business, not only are they ain't going to jump on us, but not only that, they're not going to jump on our kids, our grandkids.
Right.
They ain't going to jump on our neighbors.
That's right.
So, with a little bit of a tongue-in-cheek, let me just answer that question. I'm taking care of my business.
All right, Judge. Appreciate it very much.
Let me add and let me add this. Over 2,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, in ancient Greece, there was a warrior statesman from Athens. His name was Pericles. He made the statement, and this goes along with what George was asking. He made the statement, the man who does not mind the business of his government is a man that doesn't mind his own business.
That's right. I can agree with that.
Keep that in mind, folks.
I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Judge.
Any other questions?
Any more questions?
Yeah, don't forget, there's a lot of unindicted felons out there.
There's a world of unindicted felons running around out here, and too many of them are under the gold dome.
Okay. Yes, that's true. So yes, sir.
I really enjoyed this, and I want to know, when will y'all be back doing this?
Well, let me tell you, the judge has traveled for quite some miles, but I'll get with him and see when we might can have him back, because I know he has a whole lot of more information to give us.
Not at this present time, but give me about the end of June, and we may have to have a celebration.
Okay. So, I'm definitely gonna keep you. I got your name and number and everything. I keep you posted. glad you came out and want to have you and more like you more involved, because there are so many issues. People call me all the
Excuse me.
time wanting help. So,
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Y'all have to forgive me. I've got too much history in my brain. I got a skull full of useless tidbits of information. I want you to look around here today. And I want you to think, this don't look like quite enough. There should be more. Every time you have that thought, I want you to remember Thermopylae. Remember Thermopylae, the king of Sparta, and 299 men. And they held back the Persian Empire until they were betrayed. I want you to remember the spring of Gideon. Go home and get down your scripture and read it. And God told Gideon, assemble the whole host, have them go down to that spring and drink. And from that spring, just watching them drink, out of the whole host of Israel, 300 men.
Right.
There's a time when God can marshal all of mankind if He wants to. But I want you to remember too, Dr. King, and his beginning. Just a handful. Many are called, few are chosen. Today, ladies and gentlemen, you are the chosen few. May God bless your future endeavors.
And invite him for a drink of water.
And invite them down to the spring for
For a
a
drink of
Yeah,
water.
Let's give
Could you announce the number? And
Oh, he did. He got it. Huh?
Do it again. Do it again.
Announce your number and name, because people are asking.
Again.
email.
Your
And
number.
number, and phone number.
Okay, phone number 678-986-1627, and the email is pnally1@att.net. When you're spelling Nally, by the way, leave out the E. Don't put that E in there. That's the money side of the family. We don't associate with them.
Let's give Judge Nally a round of applause for attending this today. And give yourselves a round of applause for being here today. And remember, knowledge is power. Thank each and every one of y'all for coming out. And we will do this again,
We're gonna have a bunch of soldiers here for
We
a
will
long
do this again.
Thank
And
you,
hopefully we can get more and more people to get involved with this program.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, brother.
Yes, ma'am.
Camera girl.
You have the word. You have the word. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Bobby, y'all. She wanna get ready. Yeah, come on over.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
Everybody, come on, Judge.
Yeah.
Great day.
You want a picture with us, Judge?
Yeah, sit in here.
Come on, Judge.
Hey, yo, man. How you doing?
You're up front here. There you go.
There is the future president of the United
Okay.
States.
She's so smart. Thank you. Oh, thank you.
Wait, get. I'll take you. I'll take one of me.
Judge, tell them to sit.
Yes, sir.
Hey,
I don't know, I didn't get far enough to get into my mind whether this case is still pending or not.
912.
It is. Is it?
Thank you, Mr. George.
Yes, sir, man.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good seeing you again, brother.
Good seeing you. I sure enjoyed it.
Oh, I enjoyed it.
Man, I'm like so much fun.
This your brother?
Yes,
Okay, all right.
those are my
man.
sisters.
All right, okay. Okay. Things you gotta say.
I'm one of the sisters to Miss Brown.
All right, baby. I know y'all. Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
You said so call it.
You want me to send it to you?
Now, Bob, you heard it.
Everybody tell me that, baby.
Okay. Talk with him afterwards, okay? 'Cause I know you're okay. I was saying.
Look, Bob, look,
I ain't no day.
look like a soldier.
I want you to tell them about that already.
So I don't know what he's gonna do when you get back a chance to talk to Judge.
Oh, Bob, that's my brother right there.
He'll look at it,
Yeah.
okay?
You met Roscoe?
He came in for y'all.
So,
This
have
one,
you
right?
met
Yeah,
with
that's
the
one of
FBI
them.
yet?
That's one of the 7.
He what?
That's one of the 7 brothers. 6 more.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
Oh, bless your heart. God bless you, girl. You made President of the United States.
You doing good, brother? Can you tell me, how did we have this judge in Douglas? What brought him in? What was the purpose? And what was your involvement?
Thank you, Mr. Rhines. Actually, I had a conversation, and Mr. Bobby Worthy referred me to Judge Nally because I was talking about the different problems and stuff that's going on, what I was faced with the unjust indictment and prosecution. And Bobby Worthy referred me to Judge Nally, and Judge Nally and we talked on several times, and he was willing to come down, and he and Bobby got with me about us trying to sponsor this event to educate the people, because when I talked with Judge Nally about the power of the grand jury, it was just astounding. And I wanted to not just have this knowledge to myself, but to be able to share it with my community, because so many people don't know that the grand jury possess the power that they do. So that's how this meeting came about, to have this forum. We were hoping that more people in law enforcement, such as our local judges, our newspapers, officers, we were praying that individuals like that would have came forward to this meeting today. But however, you know, the people who came, and they really appreciated it. And I feel like that's my responsibility and my duties, is once I gain knowledge, is to share it with my constituents so that they will be informed. So that's how we got to where we are today with this.
Commissioner Pearson, did you tell or inform your mayor and fellow city council persons?
Yes, Mr. Rhines, I announced it about 2 weeks ago at our city council meeting that we would be having Judge Nally here today. So they were aware, and we passed out flyers to the commission, to different people in the community. Yes, the mayor and council were informed, as well as the staff.
My final question to you, Commissioner, is, as long as I've known you, I find you to be a person that is elected to office, and you seem to always put the people first. I noticed how, when I was called by 11 Action News, where they interviewed you and did a nice segment, I must commend the reporter.
Yes.
And 11 Action News, but you were superb in that interview. You won your court case of alleged voter fraud.
Yes, sir.
And we were in the courtroom with you.
Right.
And you have a lot to be thankful for. Okay. And the people here ought to be thankful to have a commissioner such as yourself. So I'm going to let you close this out.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much. I do believe in putting the citizens first, trying to do my best to just basically make this place a better place than how I found it. Because I believe that we are our brother's keeper. I believe we should do what we can to help one another and not harm someone. So I try to do what I can to make people aware of their rights, you know, because oftentimes people don't know, and people are afraid. You know, it's sad, but I really believe people are afraid to even sometimes gain knowledge. But to those who are willing to learn, willing to help, willing to do whatever is right, I encourage them to please get involved. We can't say why somebody's not here. All we can do is pray that they will one day come before it's too late, because the Bible tells us, my people perish for lack of knowledge. So,
thank you very much. Again, on Free Press, George Boston Rhymes. As you know, we report what others ignore. Bye-bye. We're gone.
thank you.
Bobby, I was just informed that in the shadows of this tornado, you somewhere in the background. So tell me why you want to have this forum over here today.
Well, I've tried basically to get it in 2 places. I was going to do it at Waycross, but Reverend Malone was kind of busy and didn't get a chance to get back with me. But I thought that this would be, especially since the stuff that Miss Olivia went through with the corrupt system over here, I thought this would be the better place for it. I actually thought more public officials would show up, because got a hold of it. I sent out to the clerk of court, the sheriff himself, all of them. I sent emails and flyers and all of them, and basically put the same thing I put up on Facebook, that y'all need to come and know the truth, the power of the grand jury, former judge, and they just didn't show up.
Well, why didn't you notify the news media?
Oh, I did. I notified them too, because they sent me back. Channel 10, Fox 31, and one more I can't remember. But I emailed them. Not only did I email their press release news and tagged it on their Facebook pages as well. And I sent a couple of reporters, and WALB number 10 did inbox me and said they got the message and they'll be basically looking into it. But you know.
Barbara Worthy, as we close this out, why do you trust Judge Paul Nally? I mean, have he proven himself to you? Or
Oh yeah, we hit it off the first time we met. He's proven himself. He showed me some stuff, and we have done some stuff together that has proven to work out. And it's definitely, he got me looking at a new light on things about justice.
Well, he was over in Kingsland, and can you fill me in with the Tony Green case? Can you tell me what has happened, the status of that case?
Well, the status of Tony Green was Zachariah Presley, the former officer of Kingsland Police Officer who shot and killed Tony Green. Attorney Malik Zuzbad came down a couple weeks ago.
From where?
Came down from Washington, D.C., the national president of Black Lawyers of Justice, and did notify the news media. We had a press conference announcing the $10 million lawsuit filed against the city of Kingsland, and the very next day also against the Duval County, Jacksonville, for the murder of Shawan Hall.
Okay. In closing, can you tell me, because I remember, I have a lot of video footage on my YouTube channel, Boston G.B.R., but can you tell me what happened to that mayor? Is he still in power, the one that would not let you stand and address the city council, the elected officials there? Can you tell me what the status of him? How's he doing as the mayor of that city?
He's home on voluntary retirement. He lost the election, need to say, and now the whole council has actually changed. Citizens can come aboard and talk. Anybody can come in and talk, which I think me and you have talked to one of the guys that was running for mayor and said that he was going to basically change all that, and he did. He lived up to that and changed all that.
That same guy we talked to?
Yeah.
He won?
Won, yep.
Okay.
And I forget his name, Dason.
Okay. But so the short form is that the mayor found out that he wasn't as popular in the decision that he made. He had to pay a price for it.
Yeah, it was something wrong. The mayor, physically and mentally, I say something was wrong with him.
Okay.
Mentally, he was a bootlicker. You know, other than that,
Uncle Tom ain't James, where you put it?
Chicken Joy ain't James.
All right, Brother Bob, appreciate you, man. Appreciate all the work you do, man. I see you still getting. Why did you post that post the other day about the KJ case and about the bail boys? Where did you get that flyer from?
Where I found that at? Yeah, right. The
Murder.
The murder of Kendrick Johnson.
Yeah.
KJ, yeah, I had to post it, man. Anything I see or find on the internet about KJ or Kendrick Johnson, I'm always post it. And as you myself, maybe a month ago, remember when my daughter is on the track team for Ware County High School. I never did talk about it because her mama didn't really want me to say nothing, but I'm saying it now. My daughter is on the Ware County track team, and I know she has a responsibility of being on the track team, but I'm her father. So I talked to the track coach of Ware County, and I talked to her mother. Everybody was fine. My daughter was fine with it. I would not allow her to step on Lowndes County High School property because every adult, teacher, staff member is responsible for the death of Kendrick Johnson, and my daughter would never step foot on that mall as long as I'm living.
All right, Bobby, appreciate it. And I thank you as a black man for standing up on what you believe in. We have too many black men, African Americans, if you will, who will not take a stand. Thank you very much. May God bless you.
Peace.
because so many people don't know that the grand jury possess the power that they do. So that's how this meeting came about, to have this forum. We were hoping that more people in law enforcement, such as our local judges, our newspapers, officers, we were praying that individuals like that would have came forward to this meeting today. But however, you know, the people who came, and they really appreciated it. And I feel like that's my responsibility and my duties, is once I gain knowledge, is to share it with my constituents so that they will be informed. So that's how we got to where we are today.
you.